Yes. We are in the last session of SSAS, and we covered almost everything except a couple of things like KPIs, actions, and calculations in the cubes, and a couple of other topics. I mean, which are not important for you at this point of time. Why? Because you're new to this technology, and what I've not covered is the toughest part of the technology, and it is not most frequently used one. Most of the guys are not even aware of it. So you don't need to worry much about that one. You can see a button here, add business intelligence, where my mouse is highlighting. So here you can apply some intelligence like time intelligence, account intelligence, dimension intelligence, and so on. So this is what I was talking about. You don't need to know at this point of time. And from all this stuff, if you see, some eight different business intelligence types are there. In this one, very rarely people use different time intelligence. Apart from that, I've never seen people using the remaining intelligence here, whatever that they are defined. So this is not of that high priority, and this is not the right time to discuss about it. First of all, you have to be good in whatever we discussed till day and what we're going to discuss in today's session also. Then you can look into this time intelligence. We can spend one session at the end of MSBI classes on this time intelligence if you feel you need it. And it's just a wizard, next, and click on OK. And there is a lot of good materials available over net which you can refer if you want to try on your own. So there are pending things are just calculations, actions, and KPIs. So let's start with calculations. Calculations is a pretty big one. So if you have a cube development, if clients has given a project to you, and if you are working on a project, let's say this is your cube development time, the time that is going to take for cube development, cube solution development. Okay. From this time, as far as I know, this part of the time will be taken for calculations. What I mean to say here is calculations, if you have, obviously there will be a lot of calculations in SSAS projects, and calculations are very key. Apart from that, developing the remaining stuff in the cube is a matter of hours. It's not a matter of days also, it's a matter of hours. And for creating calculations, for example, in my last project, I have created 150 calculations per cube. Like that, I have created six cubes. So 150 calculations, sometimes you can finish 10 calculations in a day. Sometimes one calculation will take more than 2 days. Why? Because the logic is pretty complex. So we will think about all this. We will talk about all these things later. First, let's see what are calculations. Calculations is just like a calculator. Remember, like if you want to have any calculation, profit, what is the formula for profit? Sales, cost price minus sales price, or sales price minus cost price. So those kind of calculations, if you want to add more power to your measures, then you will choose calculations part. So these calculations are useful to define complex calculations which is very difficult to achieve using SQL Server. For example, first how to create a calculation. Let's see that. You can see an icon here, calculator icon. This means create a new calculation or calculated member. And whenever you click on that, a page will open where you have to define your calculation. Let's see the different options that are available in this calculations page, and then we'll discuss about differences between couple of differences between the calculations here and the calculated column in the data source view. Okay, which is very important to know. So first thing is you have to give some name. You don't need to give in square brackets. Square brackets will come into picture only when there is space between the space in the name. In this one, there is a space. So if I remove this, it is throwing an error saying that the name provided for this calculation is not valid. You have a space in that, and in that case, you have to keep it in, enclose it in square brackets. If I remove the space, this is the valid one. So now you should understand the square brackets is only will come into picture only when you have space in the names. Let me give the name of this calculation. I don't want to give some complex names. I'm giving test as the name of this calculation. Parent hierarchy means where it is going to fit. This is a calculated member. You can create calculations for attributes and also for measures. For attributes, it's a rare case scenario, very rare case scenario. Most of the cases you will write calculations on measures. So I'm selecting measures here as parent. And what is the expression? What you want to achieve using this calculation, that is the expression, or what is the formula that you have to provide as part of this expression box. So in this expression box, it will accept only MDX, the one which you are not at all aware of. You have zero knowledge on MDX, and we are going to deal about only MDX in calculations, KPIs and actions. That's why I kept these 3 tabs for the last session. This is our last SSA session, right? And I know, I mean, it is very difficult for you to understand what I'm writing here, but try to get some knowledge, what is calculation, how to do that. And once we finish MDX sessions, we can revisit it to write complex calculations. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write simple calculations. So I'm writing a calculation. I'm taking a measure, factor into net sales. I'm taking sales amount minus tax amount. I don't know what will be the value. What I want is, I want sales amount minus tax amount whenever I drag and drop this test calculated measure. So this is enough for a calculated measure. Only these properties, if you set these properties, the calculated measure is ready to go. We have some additional properties here. What are these additional properties? The first one is format string. This format string will tell how the output value should be formatted. For example, if this is a decimal value and this is a decimal value, and the output, if you want to show in integer, then if you select 0, it will show it in integers without decimals. If you select standard, it will show with 2 decimals. If you select currency, it will show dollar before the value. If you show percent, if you select percent, then automatically the output will be multiplied with 100 and also add percentage at the end, percentage symbol at the end. Short date for any date types, and long dates with the date and time, you can use this. And again, this 0 is for without decimal values. If you see these things, the next 5 items that are present here, this is nothing but the representation of the same, the names that are present above in the top 5 list. So the standard is equal to this one. Either if you select standard or if you select this one, both are one and the same. In the same way, currency to this one are same. Percentage and this one is same. Short date and this one is same, and long date and this one is same. So if you select short date, the date will be shown in this fashion, DD-MMM-YY. If you select long date, you can see here 4 digits. So this is the different format strings that are available, and I want to show the value in standard format, that is 2 decimals. So I selected standard. And visibility. Do you want to make this one visible to the users? Yes, I want to. If you don't want, you can set it to false. I want to, so by default it is true, so leave it as true. Non-empty behavior is very tricky one, very important one to know. For example, let's say this is not the calculation expression. Let's say this is sales amount divided by tax amount. Okay. In this case, if the tax amount is null, then it will convert to 0. So anything divided by 0 will go for infinity error. So in that cases, to avoid that stuff, whenever it is null, if you select the denominator value, whatever you have in the denominator, if you select that, so it will come here whenever it is evaluating the query, whenever it is evaluating the calculated measure, and it will come to each and every row. It will check whether the tax amount is null or not. If it is null, then it won't calculate. By default, it will place null. It won't calculate for that particular row item. Okay, I'll explain all this stuff. First, let me create the calculation. So non-empty behavior will take care whether if the denominator is null, then the formula will not be executed. Instead of executing the formula, by default, it will place null value. And associated measure group. There are two measure groups that are available to in which measure group you want to associate this. Associate means where you want to show this. This is related to fact internet sales, so I'm selecting this. If you don't select anything, it will be outside of the measures. It will be outside of these two measure groups. It will be in a separate folder or separate item. It will be a separate item. So let me keep it as fact internet sales and display folder where you want to display it. Let's say display folder is calculated measures. That means it will create a folder called calculated measures inside that fact internet sales measure group, and there it will show this measure, calculated measure. And color expressions and font expressions. You can set some color expressions and font expressions based on the values. If what value I have to give? Measures.test. This is an MDX greater than 1000, comma, show me red color, else show me green. So I'm writing some formula to show the color based on the value that it is going to be evaluated. Let me process this and see how it will show when I drag and drop it in the browser. And later I will again explain each and every property that is present in the calculated measures. So this is processed. We inserted records right into this table. That's why it is taking time now. We inserted a couple of records in last example, right? See, it is having some 13 lakhs to 15 lakhs. So it is taking more time. So when the data grows, when the data size is increased, the time that is going to take will be increased. Earlier it was taking only 1 second. Now it is taking 21 seconds. If it is having some crores of records, the time will be taken more, more time will be taken. Now let me go to the browser. What is the formula I have given for this? You can see a folder is created as per the name I have given. Based on the name I have given the name as calculated measures here. So a folder is created inside this fact internet sales, and the name of that one is measures. If I drag and drop this, it is showing 12.50, and the tax amount, sorry, let me go to the sales amount. This is the sales amount and this is the tax amount. If you divide this one by this one, it will be 12.50. And I set the color. If you see the formula, I set the color. If it is greater than 1000, then show it in red, else show it in green. The value is less than 1000, so it is in green. Okay, let me change the formula for the color. Let me go to calculations. Let me change it to 10. 1000 is pretty big value. Why? Because I am taking divided by. So whenever you modify the stored procedure, you don't need to process the complete cube. It is enough if you just deploy the cube. So now it is deploying. Now I don't need to process. Let me go to the browser and reconnect. So this is fine, and it is showing red in color. I've given 10 or something, right? Greater than 10 or whatever the formula based on that. If it is greater than 10, yes, it is greater than 10. So it is showing red in color. Now, what it is doing at the time of query execution, when I drag and drop, a query will be generated, and that one will be hit the server to get the data. At that particular time, the calculated measure will be evaluated. That means it will be evaluated at the execution time or run time, we call it as. Okay. What is the power of this calculated measure? The power it is not specific to any attribute. If you drag and drop color, automatically it will split based on the value. Okay. If you divide this by this, obviously it will be 12.5. If you divide this by this, it will be 12.5. I can guarantee that. So always the tax amount to sales amount will be the same. And if you drag and drop something else, English product name, it will be calculated based on the row item. Now let's go back to the property. You understood this property, you understood the visibility, you got confused at tax, non-empty behavior, right? So what is non-empty behavior? While calculating, it will calculate item by item. First it will calculate for all purpose bike stands. Next it will calculate for AWC logo cap. Next it will calculate for bike wash dissolver. So one by one it will take it. So what is the formula? While calculating this row, it will take this value, it will take this value, this divided by this, and then it will get this value. And next time it will take this value and it will take this value and it will calculate and get this value. Let's say I have 1 crore of records. Okay, 1 crore of product names. Among that, 75 lakhs are having null as tax amount. Are you understanding the concept? What I'm trying to explain here? So I have 1 crore of products, and among that 75 lakh products has null as tax amount. So if I select this non-empty behavior of the denominator, and denominator value as non-empty behavior here, then it will, before it takes both the values that are required to calculate the calculated measure, first it will check the non-empty behavior value. What is the non-empty behavior here? It is tax amount. It will check these values where all it is null. Let's say you have null for a couple of things here. It won't calculate. It will blindly place null. Okay. If there is null in the non-empty behavior value, instead of applying the formula blindly, it will place null as the output of the calculated measure. So that is about the non-empty behavior option. So this is pretty simple one. This is pretty simple one. This is not a pretty big one, right? So here, let me do one thing. Let me copy the same formula. Font color. You can give some color to font also. If it is greater than 10, the color is red, right? So I will give the font as white. So it will be good combination. And this is the one, right? You don't worry about all these formulas. Once you become familiar with MDX, you can write it easily. Even if it is green, let it be white. And now I'm changing the value, the expression to sales amount minus tax amount. It was sales amount divided by tax amount, and it is sales amount minus tax amount. In this case, there is no denominator, and I don't need to have this. If this is null, it should not place null, right? 100 minus null, it is 100. It is not null. So you have to make sure that you remove this. Why? Because there is no denominator calculations part, divider part here. After making the change, I'm deploying the cube again. It is deployed. Now let me go to the browser and reconnect. As per my guess, everything should turn to green. Oh, sorry, red. Why? Because everything is greater than 10. The difference is greater than 10. This minus this. So now let me give some value for this color. Instead of 1000, instead of 10, I'm giving pretty big value. This is not high priority, the color and font. You don't worry much about the color and font. I'm trying to show you an example. That's it. What you have to worry, what you have to get from this particular topic is the expression part and parent hierarchy. That means where it is going to have impact, from where it is going to get the data, and what is the format type, format string, non-empty behavior, visible property, associated measure group, and display folder. Now let me go to the browser. It will check whether the value is greater than 10 lakhs or something, whatever the value I have given, and based on that it will show red and green. All the values are greater than the value that I have given, so everything is showing in red color. So this is a simple calculation. Like that you can create a number of calculations. Okay. So here if you see, you can go for multiply this sales amount into the other sales amount, or you can show some standard value. Standard value means in MDX, if you drag an attribute and add a measure, then it will show a standard value. For example, let me take a color. I'm taking some, sorry, this is class. Let me take color. I'm taking a default, black color, and I'm giving a measure value. So what this one will return is, it will always return the black color sales amount. That is in MDX. You will come to know about once we start discussing about MDX session, MDX concepts. So what this one will return is, this one will return black color sales amount. Let me show you that with an example. Let me drag color. And if you see, the black color sales amount is 424243,773, and the same is showing for everything. So that is MDX. You can get any one particular color color sales amount for all the values of all the rows of the result set, or it depends on your requirement, what the requirement is, and what formula you have to write. Based on that, you will write the formula in the calculations part expression. So this is the basics of MDX. A simple MDX example. So if I give you a complex example, like if it is so and so class, blah blah blah, like using some 10 to different functions, you will get confused and you will show less interest in understanding this calculations part. So I'm putting an end to this here, the expressions part and all, and we will revisit once all the sessions on MDX is completed. And to be frank, we're not going to revisit. I expect you people to practice a lot with the MDX knowledge that you are going to gain after the sessions. And I want to explain one major difference, the difference between the calculated member here that you are creating here, okay, by using this particular option, you are creating calculated members, right? And the calculated column here. You can create a calculated column, right? What is the calculation that we have written there? We have written sales amount minus some blah blah blah. Let me create a calculated column here. Sorry, new named calculation here. Sales amount minus tax amount. This is the formula I have written there. Let me check whether it is. There is no column called sales amount, so it is sales, SALES. So sales amount minus tax amount. I created a calculated member here in the data source view. Okay, try to understand this. And I'm adding the same in the cube. I'm adding that newly created measure. What is the measure name I have given for that? What is the column name? Sales, right? I think I've given it as sales. Yeah, sales. I've added to the cube. Now in the calculated measure, I'm writing the same formula. Sales amount minus something. Sorry. So whatever the formula I have written there, that is sales amount minus tax amount. I'm writing the same formula here also. Now let me process the cube. Why? Because I added a new measure. And let's see what is the difference between adding a formula in the data source view using new named calculation and adding a calculated member with the same formula in calculations tab. Let's discuss about the differences between these two. Why? Because it is an important concept. So when you can do a same task in two places, which one is the best? You need to know that, right? So we're gonna discuss about the same now. I'm reconnecting it. Sales amount test. This is the formula. This minus this. Now I will have one more measure here, that is sales. Let me drag and drop. You can see the same value is coming, right? The same value is coming, but which one is best? So it always depends on your requirements again. So let me explain you the difference between these two. Then you can judge what is the best fit for your requirement. So when you add a formula, when you add a calculated measure here, calculated member here, it will be processed. It will be executed at the time of cube processing. So whenever the cube is processing, it will calculate the value of this and store the value in the analysis server. But calculations is not like that. Calculations will be calculated only when it will just store the formula. It will be calculated only when you call this particular calculated measure from your MDX query. So this will be executed or this will be evaluated at process time, and these calculations will be evaluated at runtime. The second difference. Here you can write simple formulas. I mean, you can write complex queries, complex calculations, but it is not that easy to write complex calculations. Whereas writing complex calculations is pretty easy here. Okay. In calculations tab, you can write complex calculations with ease. And the third difference is when you use the calculation, when you use the calculated column that is created here, it will take less time to execute the query. The query performance will be too good. Why? Because it is already processed. It is already evaluated. The value is evaluated. So it is already evaluated and stored. But if you use the calculated measure, whatever you created here, it will be evaluated on the fly. So every time, whenever you execute that query, whenever you call this particular calculated measure, it will be evaluated and it will be retrieved. So the performance of the query will be poor compared to the performance of the query which is using calculated column which we added. So these are all the major differences. So whenever it is a complex calculation, obviously there no other go for you. You have to go for calculations tab. And whenever it is a simple calculation, and if you feel it is going to take a lot of time at the time whenever you are using it in MDX, so better go for calculated column in the data source view. So this is about the calculations tab, and we have a lot to know. I mean, mostly on expressions part, as we are not familiar with MDX at this point. As you are not familiar with MDX at this point of time, I'm not going in depth into MDX expressions. So we will revisit this this calculations part after the MDX is completed. So the next one is KPIs. KPI stands for key performance indicators. Generally, whenever you are talking about any business, any game, let's take a game, let's take a business. Game is also a business. Software business, whatever it may be. Whenever you start a bakery, Pizza Hut, any business, you will have some performance indicators like Sachin's performance indicator, whether he's a good player in tests or not, whether he's a good player in 2020. I mean, these performance indicators, these are the main indicators of your business, how it is performing over a period, whether it is good, doing good or not. So key performance indicators in my life, I work on some 20 BI projects. Very rare case I created this KPIs. Why? Because you have this feature like similar one you can able to create in SSRS side or on your own reporting tools. So the preference here is pretty less. But it's always good to know about these KPIs, and few guys will only live on these KPIs. Few projects, they want hundreds of KPIs. They will ask about only KPIs. And here also we are not going to touch much of these KPIs. Why? Because it deals with a lot of MDX. So I'll give you a basic knowledge, basic idea about how to create a KPI and how to see the data in the KPI. And then we will jump into the actions. So key performance indicators. Now we are going to create a key performance indicator. For creating a key performance indicator, you have a button here. If you click on this, a page will open for creating the KPIs. I'm giving a name like test KPI. If I give like this, what is the associated measure group? That means for which data you are gonna create this KPIs. I'm gonna do it for fact internet sales data, that is the sales amount data that is present in the fact internet sales. So this KPI basically takes value expression and goal expression. What is the value and what is the goal? Based on the value and based on the goal set, it will check whether a particular product is doing good or not doing good or moderate. It is okay, it's a plain line, it's going neither super good or neither too bad. So it will give this kind of information to you, easily understandable pictorial information of any business or any player or any entity, I can say. So the value expression here, what is the value expression? The value expression for me is sales amount. Let's say the sales amount is my value expression. If the sales amount, and I'm setting a goal of $1,000 is my goal for every product, I want to see a sales of sales minimum of $1,000 for every product. That is the goal I am setting. Now, in this status indicator, we are going to write some formula, which will be shown as indicators to the end users. Once I create this KPI, then you will understand what the status is and what is this trend. So the difference between status and trend is status will be checked with the current values, whether it is doing good or not in this particular current period, whereas trend it is used to check how the trend is going over a period of time, like last 10 years, last 2 years comparison or last 3 years comparison, how it is performing. So that is the trend and this is the status. Now how to write the status expression of a KPI. I'm writing a case statement, case 1, KPI value. KPI value is a keyword where if you use this KPI value, it will give what is the value part. This is the value expression, right? What is the value that it is gonna retrieve, this particular part. It will give you the KPI value. Case 1, KPI value is greater than or equal to 80%. That means 0.8 means it is 80%. If it is greater than or equal to 80% of KPI goal, so it will check what is the value, whether it is 80% greater than or not, then show 1. 1 means positive. It is performing good. When KPI value is greater than or equal to 60%, then it is 0. That means it is doing moderately. It is neither good nor bad. I forgot to add multiplication part. Else -1. So this KPI normally it will be represented between the values between -1 and 1. -1 is worst, 1 is super good, and all the middle values are moderate. Okay. And now let me expand this. Let me expand this and let me explain this part first. Case when, what this KPI value will give? KPI value will give you the value of the particular measure or whatever you select in the value expression. Here you can see value expression. What I'm checking here is if it is greater than or equal to 80%, let's say I have a product and the sales is $800, then that is greater than or equal to $1,000 or 80% of the $1,000, right? 800 is 80% of the $1,000, so it will be 1. If I have $750 as sales, then it will be greater than or equal to 60% and less than 80%, right? So it will be 0 and else it will be -1. It is too poor. So here what I am checking is it will take the value, it will check whether it is greater than 80% or not to the goal. If it is greater than 80%, then it will set 1. Next, it will take the KPI value and it will check whether it is greater than 60% or not. If it is greater than or equal to 60%, then it will set 0, else it will set -1. So it is gonna show me whether a product is performing good, bad, or worst. Right? Now, about this, there is a status indicator. What is the status indicator? How you want to show this particular status? You have different options like traffic light, road signs, gauge, cylinder, and faces, smiley faces, so many things. So let me go with road signs. Here let me go with arrow, and I'm giving the same expression here. I can give same expression, but generally people use this for this trend expression for calculations over time, but we're not doing that, as it will be very big MDX formula, which may lead to confusion. So I'm taking the same expression whatever I explained. Under additional properties, there is only one important property to know, that that is display folder, where you want to display this particular KPI. I'm creating a folder called KPIs. Inside that, I want to show this KPI. And parent KPI, whether it is the parent KPI or not. This is like what we call parent child. Interlinked, whether any other KPI, whether this particular KPI acts as parent to the another KPI. So we'll discuss about this. And current time member, if you want to set some time member as the current time member, you can set it, and weight is similar. You don't worry about this, and this is for description. And if you see these additional fields, there is no much information to know except the display folder and parent KPI. Whenever you have a parent KPI, then this one will roll up to the parent KPI, just like our hierarchies. Okay. Now let me process this first and see how the KPIs will be shown in the browser. So keep in mind that KPIs are meant for key performance indicators to calculate the performance of a particular entity. And for these 4 important things, one is value, goal, status, and trend. Value will talk about based on what value you are gonna find out the performance. And goal is what is the goal you set for that. And status is it will give you what is the status, whether it is growing, whether it's positive or negative or moderate. And status is it will check over the period of time and give you the similar kind of status. Now if I reconnect, I'm not seeing anything here. No KPIs, no folders, nothing. So you cannot see KPIs in the browser. Okay, keep this point in mind. You cannot see KPIs in browser. For KPIs, there is a separate browser in the same tab. If you see here, it will show the KPI. The name of the KPI is test KPI. The value is this much. The goal I set is this much. Status, it is positive, very much greater than, value is very much greater than the goal I set. So it is positive. And also trend, I have given the same formula, so it is positive. So this is not the best place to check your KPIs. The best place is either connect to third-party tools or SSRS reports, or simply connect to Excel. In Excel, you can see a better report than this for KPIs. Let me show you that now. I'm connecting to Excel. And data from other source, from analysis services, I'm going for localhost. I'm selecting MSBI, finish, done. Now you can see on the right hand side, you have this is measure group, this is one measure group, and you can see KPIs folder, whatever I've created. Under that, there is test KPI. In that I have value. What is the value? The sales amount is the value. The goal is 1000, the one I set. This is the status, positive. And this is the trend. It is going up. Now this one will get more power when I add something to the row items. Like if I add color, it will spell this particular color 0 sales. So it is going down, negative. This is less than 0, 60%. So it will set 0. And remaining things, it is positive. Instead of color, Let me drag and drop English product name, which will have more values. And if you see here, it is easy to understand which one is performing good. Pictorial representation. You don't need to calculate this minus this or this into some percentage. You don't need to calculate of all these things. This will give you a better picture. Okay, these two are performing good, and these two are not performing. I mean, these are not performing good. These are very worst, and these are performing good again. So like this, you can go for calculations. If I give this as my value, this as my goal, check, I'm taking this value, I'm setting this as my goal here. Why? Because 1000 is pretty small value. I'm setting this as goal, and I don't need to deploy. I don't need to process it. If I deploy, that is more than enough. Let me deploy it. I deployed. Now, how to refresh it? You have an option called refresh here. I refreshed. So you can see the goal is changed to this value, and this is fine. I'm looking for that 60 to 80%. Is there anything which is between 60 to 80? There is nothing here. All the values, this is the smallest value that is available, I guess. So let me do one thing. Let me give some goal which will lead to 60 to 80% of some value. Let me make it as 79. So I'm deploying it. This is deployed. This is 79, and here you can see the 79 is something around 60 to 80% of this value. This value is 60 to 80% of this value. That's why it is coming as orange. If it is poor, then it is showing as red. If it is super good, that is greater than 80%, it is showing as green. Else, it is showing as orange color. You can see a lot of orange colors here. So this is the use of KPIs, and you can see the trend also changing based on the color. Whenever you have orange color, you can see the trend, it is horizontal one. Whenever it is negative, it is down arrow. Whenever it is positive, it will be up arrow. So this is the easiest way of representing the progress of your or performance of a particular entity of your business. So this is why KPIs plays a major role. Few guys, they want to see only pictorial representation, and they love to have KPIs. They will have some hundreds of KPIs in their cubes. And this, so you have to remember about value expression, goal expression, status indicator, and trend. The parent KPI is whenever this is dependent on something else, then you have to set this one as parent KPI of the next one. So this is about KPIs, and we will revisit this surely after we get some good knowledge on MDX part. Now let's go to the actions part. We have three types of actions. One is standard action, another one is reporting action, and the third one is drill through action. Let's discuss about each actions briefly here. Why? Because here again you are gonna use MDX a lot. So we have three types of actions. One is standard, another one is reporting, and the third one is drill through. And if you see here, this is one, and this is one, and this is one. Let me select the first one. This action is called standard action type. The first action, if you see the pop-up message, it is new action. If you see, this is new drill through action. If you see this is new reporting action. So if you want to create a standard action, you have to select the first one. So what you have to give here is action name. I'll name it as URL action. URL action is fine. And what is URL action? And first of all, what are actions? If you want to have some functionality like navigating to a particular web page, or executing some other MDX query, or executing drilling through to the next level, if you want to have some action on a particular event, then you will go for actions. The first action is standard actions. Under the standard actions, you have different types. One is data set, proprietary, row set, statement, and URL. If you select URL, generally from this set, as far as I know, only URL will be used. Apart from that, I don't think that people use different types that are available here. URL, if you select URL, it will take you to some different URL, whatever you specified here. If you select statement, it will execute a statement, either MDX or SQL Server, whatever the statement you are giving, it will execute that. If you select data set, it will execute the MDX query and return the data into a multi-dimensional data set. And if it is a proprietary, it is a tool related stuff, it is not related to this. And row set, it will execute MDX query and return a two-dimensional row set. Okay, you are not aware of these data sets, row sets, and all these are .NET related concepts, and hence, I mean, you don't need to worry much about this. Just understand what is this URL action. Why? Because mostly people use this URL action only. So how to define this URL action? What this URL action will do is, if you right click on select this action, it will navigate to some particular page. Let me show you that. Target type. This is one important thing, where you want to apply this particular URL action. Where you want to apply this particular URL action. You know attributes, right? You know cells. Attributes is nothing but columns of the dimension. Attribute members are nothing but values in the particular attribute. In the same way, this is dimension members, means any dimension member. If you select this, if you select hierarchy, or whenever you drag and drop that hierarchy, this action will be triggered. Whenever you use hierarchy member, this action will be triggered. And for level is nothing but hierarchy levels. You have levels, right? Level 1, 2, 3. Like year is the level 0, quarter is level 1, month is level 2, and so on. And this is level members, a particular member of a particular level. So let me go for attribute members and show you an example so that you will get a clear picture. I selected attribute members, and what attribute member you want to have. I want to have it for English product name attribute. If I select levels, here it will show only calendar levels. You can see no attributes are showing. It will show only levels. If I select level members, if you go here, it will show again an attribute levels only on the members of this particular level it will be applied. This particular action will be tagged to that particular set. If you select cube, it will select current cube. That's it. It will apply all the members of the cubes. If you select dimension members, it will list only dimensions. See here, nothing else is showing. And if you select hierarchies, it will show only hierarchies. This is an hierarchy. This is two-dimensional hierarchy. No, sorry, two-level hierarchy. I'll explain you that. So like that, you can set the target type as any one of these. If I set the target type as attribute members, it will show only attributes. And let me select one attribute, English product name, and what is the condition? If you want to filter something, like if the attribute member is so and so, then don't trigger this action. If the attribute member is Axe deodorant, then don't show this URL action. If you want to have some denied set or something like that, then you can have this condition here. That is an optional. And here I have to specify the what action, what URL it has to call. I'm selecting www.gmail.com, and it is showing some warning messages. URL should have HTTP or HTTPS. So I'll go for HTTP and gmail.com. And there are a lot of additional properties, just like you have seen in KPIs. Interactive, this property is related to the third-party tools which are connecting to this cube. For example, Dundas charts, it's a third-party tool. Whenever you connect to such kind of third-party tool to this cube, from the third-party tool to this cube, then whether it has to be interactive or not, both sides interactive or not. I mean, this option is not useful for us here. Let me hide this. And application, you don't need to. And description, if you want to provide any description, you can give that. And caption, what is the caption of this particular action? If you don't specify anything, it will take the name whatever you specified here. You have specified URL action, right? It will take that one by default. or else you can give some caption like testing URL action. I have given some name, and the next option is whether this name is an MDX or not. This is not an MDX, right? This is just plain text, so fine. If it is MDX, then it will check for this. Man, you said this is MDX, and it will try to evaluate the value using MDX, and it will throw error. If it is MDX, it should be in double quotes. Plus, you can have some current member, blah blah blah, some functionality in MDX. So I don't want to have that here, so I'm setting it to false. I will show you one example by having caption as MDX. Okay, now I'm processing this. Let me process the queue. Remember, I defined an URL action which will call gmail.com, and that URL action I tagged to English product name attribute of the dim product dimension. Now let's go and see whether it is available or not. So close, go to browser, reconnect, English product name, and I have reconnected on this, and you can see testing URL action. On right clicking of this, I have testing URL action. When I click on that, it is taking me to gmail.com. Where this is useful? Calling gmail.com is not useful to me. Where this one is useful to me? What is one scenario, one example? One example is, for example, if I have employee names here, assume I'm running a big company, MNC, and this is the employee names and the leaves taken by them and the salary deposited into their account, tax, and so on. So if I right click on this particular employee, and if I click on this some URL action, it has to take me to his employee page. So employee page will be like this: http:// that company name dot / employees list / employee ID or employee name. If you provide, it will show his page. So I can provide this value to the URL action. How can I provide that? By going here and by adding some question mark, you know, right? Employee ID, blah blah blah. So like this, I can dynamically navigate to a particular employee page, or I can dynamically navigate to a particular country in maps, Google Maps. If you want to see the country in the Google Maps or the location in the Google Maps, on right click on this, you can call the Google Maps here and pass the country name. It will filter, it will search for that particular country and it will return. Now, to show you how this how this particular product name will be taken, whether it take the product name or not, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a caption with MDX. Plus, what I'm doing here is I'm taking dim product. This is all about MDX. I mean, you need to know about MDX. That's why I'm not taking complex examples here. So try to understand the simple one. Dot current member. Shit, it is completely gone. Dot current member. Okay. Now I've given a name like this: testing URL action space the product whatever. I'm gonna select it. Now let me show you whether it is gonna show that particular product as part of the caption. I'm not talking about the function, anything else, just caption. I'm reconnecting it. So if I right click on this particular bike wash dissolver, it should show that it is not showing. So some problem in the caption whatever I have written. So let me quickly go on change it. So this caption is having some problem. Testing URL action I think it's ampersand. Oops, I understood the problem. I copied it twice. You can see the dim product name is twice. This is the problem with MD expand. So now this looks good. This is enough. This looks good now. Let me add this plus here and let me process this again. Earlier I dragged the dim product name twice. That's why the problem was. It was not showing that. Now let me go and check the same. Let me reconnect it. I'm taking classic West. Still it is not showing. One second. I think I have to give dot name. Let me check that. Current member will take the member, whereas name will take the name of that particular product where I'm right clicking. So I hope this should work. As I told you, we don't use these functions much in real-time projects. That's why you were not getting this. If you see here, testing URL action space classic OSTM. This is where I've right clicked. And here if I right click, it is LL roadside. So how I'm getting the value? I'm getting the value using current member function. Current member is a function in MDX which will give you on what cell it is. So I'm getting the value. In the same way, I can pass the value to the employee profile page, right? The profiles.companyname.com slash. If I pass the profile name like Rupesh, it should directly open the profile of that particular employee. So there it will be useful if they want to see the sales of a particular employee is pretty good. If the manager want to see who is that employee, create an action for that. Right click. If they click on that, you should take the profile of that particular employee. So this is the case, real-time cases where they will use URL action. Okay. Now this is about URL action, a pretty useful one in these kind of cases. If the manager or senior person want to know who is performing well, and if he wants to know more details about the particular person, or which country is performing well and which location in a particular country. Tirupati is performing well, let's say. Tirupati location in Andhra Pradesh is performing well as compared to the other locations in India. And if the manager want to see where the location is, you can configure to Google Maps. Simply give maps.google.com. maps.google.com slash, and you will have some question marks and so on, right? Here you have to pass country name and then one by one after giving question marks. So in this way you can configure URL actions, which it will navigate, it will take you to different web page, whatever the web page you are gonna configure here. Now if you see the next step of action, that is drill through action. Drill through means if I'm seeing the data at country level, and if I click on drill through, it will take me to the next level, whatever I define. For example, if I'm seeing color-wise information, okay, if I'm seeing color-wise sales, so I'm naming this one as prod drill through. So what this one will do is, I'm writing it for fact internet sales again. Wherever I am seeing the data, it will take me to the level what I am defining here. Drill through columns. Whatever the columns I'm gonna select here, the measures I selected, and I'm gonna select a couple of columns from this particular dimension dim product. So I'm gonna select English product name, and I'm gonna select color, and I'm gonna select class and model name. So this drill through action, it will show these 4 columns and these 3 measures whenever I selected this particular action. Now let me show the additional properties. It is same, default one is set to false, leave it this one. Maximum rows. How many rows you want to limit? Let's say I want to limit to 200 rows. And the next one is caption again. I'll give it as drill through. Okay, I'm not giving any interactive, any caption in MDX part. So I'm giving a plain caption. Now here if you see what I've done is I have configured for a particular measure group. Okay, whatever the data I might be seeing in this particular measure group. When I click on this action, it should show these particular columns. Let me show you an example here by by deploying the cube. So the cube is deployed and let me process it, reconnect it. I'm taking this one out, and for this sales amount we have that action. You can see the drill through action. I've given for fact internet sales measure group. So on any cell of this particular of any measure that I have pulled from the fact internet sales, it will have this action. If I click on this particular action, it will open a new page with all the columns that I've selected. I have selected this, that is sales amount and the tax amount and sales amount minus tax amount and the different products whatever we selected. So the product name with different attributes whatever we selected, and color, class, and product type. I think this is something, the last one whatever we selected. So this is the drill through action. It will take you to the next level of information. And this drill through action, people don't use it. Why? I mean, not that frequently. Why? Because you have a fantastic drill through action in SSRS2. So you can generate this, you can create this cube, and you can use this cube, and you can define drill through actions in SSRS, which is better than this drill through. But people who are not using SSRS, people who are using Excel, they need drill through actions in SSAS cubes. Now I'm dragging this color black. Now I'm taking on black color I'm taking the drill through. If you see, it filtered on the particular row. I've done it for black, right? So it will show only black color products. And if you observe, it is showing only 200 products. Why? Because I filtered to 200. Now I'm going to blue, right clicking on this and click on drill through. So it is going to show only blue color products. So it will take the row item, it will filter this particular data, and for that data it will split and show. It will show the detailed information, I can say. So the drill through will provide you the next level detailed information based on your definition. So here I have defined for these particular attributes and columns, and hence it is showing whenever I right click on any measure item that is pulled from this measure group fact internet sales. So this is about drill through action. The third type of action is reporting action. To show this reporting action, you need to have SSRS reports deployed in your machine. I don't know whether I deployed SSRS reports or not. I have to check it before explaining about reporting action. What reporting action will do is, reporting action simply calls a report, whatever it is deployed in your server. Let's say this is my local host and this is my report server. Let's see whether any SSRS reports are deployed. I don't remember. It is HTTP, not HTTPS, localhost / report server. It is taking a lot of time. I have to check whether the service is running or not, SSRS report service. So SQL Server 2008 R2. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, there is no reports developed in this particular computer, deployed in this particular server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief about this reporting action, and you can try once we finished discussing about SSRS reports. And there is no much complexity in this reporting action. If you see, you have to provide the name, report action or something, whatever it may be. And again, the same concept, where you want to apply this, on rows or on columns, on attributes or on cells or on cube or complete cube or on dimension members and so on. Let's go for attributes, and Again, I'm going for English product name attribute. On top of this attribute, I'm gonna have this. So here you have to provide the server name where the reports are deployed. So if I deploy reports in my local host, this is the place, and the URL you have to give report server slash question mark slash some name will be there, report name, test report, something blah blah blah, some information will be there, the URL. You have to provide this URL and in which format you want to see this report. You want to get it in Excel or PDF or HTML5 or HTML3. So let's go for HTML5 and parameters. If there is any parameters, parameter means filtering part. Like if in a report, if you have a filter on top, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, if you select India, it will show only India sales of India, right? Country India. So in that way, if you want to add any parameter, you can provide the parameter. If there is any parameter defined in your report, whatever you are using here, so you can add the parameter information here. And additional properties is again the same, whether you want to have it for interactive for the third-party tools and descriptions, captions, and so on. Report action. So like this. If you configure these stuff, this is good enough. So if you configure all these things and click on OK, and similar to that one, which I configured, right? I configured that URL action. Similar to that URL action, you will get this report action here. And if you select this report action, and it will open the report which you have given here in this particular report path. And if that particular report is deployed and if it is in running state, and if you passed all the parameters that are required for that report, then only the report will be opened, or else it will throw error saying that the required parameters are not passed by the user, or the given report is not available in the server. So some kind of error will be thrown. So this is about report action. In short, we have three types of actions. One is standard action. In standard, you have different types, and most of the types are not useful for us. The only one which we use is URL action, which will take us to a particular URL, and that is useful whenever we are taking whenever we want to navigate to a particular page, like Google Maps is the best example. Whenever you select a country, it has to take you to the particular country in the Google Maps or any particular location also. And if you want to navigate to a page where the employee details are present, employee information is present, in that case also you can go for URL action. And the next one, drill through action, it will show you the detailed report based on detailed information based on how you configure the drill through action and on which measure group items. So we have seen a good example for that. And the reporting action, it will take you to a particular report based on the server name and the path that you are providing and the parameter values, if any required. So this is about all the different actions, KPIs and calculations, and all these things we have seen only high level, not in depth. Why? Because you are not familiar with MDX, and if I take you to complex queries, then you will get confused. That's why we will revisit these three. Once the MDX sessions are over, we can spend some one session on this again, if required. And with this, we are good in SSAS. If you know all the concepts, if you understand what all the concepts we discussed in last 15 sessions, I guess, in last 15 sessions, then you are good to go. You are good. You are good as SSAS developer. So that's it for this session, and we will catch with new, MDX or SSIS or SSRS. We're going to start any one thing from these three. So in next session. Thank you very much.